Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Indiana Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis, Indiana. And the show just ended. Dynamite went into overtime. The show ended at 10:03 here. But Dynamite tonight, I thought it was an okay show. It wasn't great or perfect by any means, but it was just an okay show. But tonight on Dynamite, we had the International Championship on the line where Jon Moxley, who is the new International Champion, he defeated Orange Cassidy in the main event of All Out on Sunday. So he ended up defending the International Championship against AR Fox. The TBS Championship was on the line where Kris Statlander defended the title against Amy Sakura, and then we had Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho versus Aussie Open. We kicked off the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament. This was the quarterfinals, so we had two of them tonight. We had Roderick Strong versus Trent Beretta, and the main event, we had Darby Allin versus Nick Wayne. And I'm like, how did Nick Wayne get a opportunity to compete in the tournament for the AEW World Championship, in the quarterfinals? How did he get into this tournament? I guess TK, Tony Khan, ended up putting some names in a hat, shook it up, and chose random names from the hat. Be like, oh, Nick Wayne, yeah, we'll put him in the World Title Eliminator Tournament quarterfinals. We'll give him an easy opportunity for the AEW World Championship. So we had that. But later on, I'm going to show the bracket of the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament and the upcoming matches. But overall, Dynamite tonight was an okay show. But before I get into the review, I just want to give my thoughts on the whole CM Punk firing that came out on Saturday, and also my thoughts on All Out. And I didn't watch the whole show. I just saw, half of the show towards like the 10 o'clock hour. Like I saw, Takeshita versus Omega, Bullet Club Gold versus FTR and the Young Bucks, and Moxley versus Orange Cassidy. So I'll just give my thoughts on those three matches from All Out, and then run down the card. But get into my thoughts on AEW firing CM Punk. I knew it was going to happen at some point. I knew that they were going to let Punk go because of everything, it's been going on there. Punk ended up saying that, he hates being there. And, of course, the whole confrontation backstage at All In between Punk and Jack Perry. Jack Perry was suspended. And this is all because of, Jack Perry wanted to use glass, to which Punk was like, no, don't use that. That's basically what this all turned out to be, because of, just a little thing like that. Because Jack Perry wanted to use real glass for a spot. But to me, Tony Khan could have handled this a little bit better, in my opinion. I know he came out on Collision on Saturday, which, I didn't watch Collision because Payback was on. I forgot to DVR Collision, but Tony Khan came out, he made the announcement about Punk, and what I saw online, the crowd booed the hell out of Tony Khan. There's video of it here on YouTube, you could go check out. But eventually, like I said, I knew that Punk was going to get fired at some point. A lot of people are like, oh, well, this is a good shot at Punk going back to WWE. And there was a report that CM Punk was interested in, going back to WWE. But who knows if that's true or not. So I really don't think that CM Punk is going back to WWE. I think Punk will possibly go and do acting, projects, because he's been in a few like indie films, and he's also in Heels, the TV show Heels on Stars, which I still have yet to start the second season. But him and AJ were in, I think, this season from what I've read. So, but we'll have to check out Heels season 2 at some point, because I don't have Stars. I gotta watch it online. That's my whole thoughts on CM Punk's firing from AEW. Going into All Out. All Out was in Chicago. Going to go over the results here. Hangman Page won the over-budget charity battle royal by last eliminating Brian Cage. Hikaru Shida, Will Nightingale, Sky Blue defeated Athena, Mercedes Martinez, and Diamante in a 6-woman tag team match. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn defeated Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh, and Jay Lethal in a 6-man tag for the World Trios Championship. Not surprised by that. But these 3 matches were on the 0 hour. And then getting into the regular matches on the card. We had Adam Cole and MJF take on Alex Reynolds and John Silver. They end up retaining the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship. Obviously knew that Cole and MJF were going to retain. Samoa Joe ended up defeating Shane Taylor to retain the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. Luchasaurus defeated Darby Allin to retain the TNT Championship. Miro ended up defeating Powerhouse Hobbs by submission. And CJ Perry, Miro's wife, actually made an appearance. And from what I saw on a picture online, Miro ended up walking away from, his wife. So I don't know what that was all about, with Miro's character. So I end up, seeing that online. Kris Statlander beat Ruby Soho to retain the TBS Championship. Bryan Danielson, he came back. He took on Ricky Starks in a no disqualification strap match. He ended up defeating Ricky Starks. Then you had the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio and Wheeler Yuta beat Eddie Kingston and Katsuyori Shibata in a tag team match. Obviously, Blackpool Combat Club were going to win it. And of course, Claudio and Eddie Kingston, they, go at it. They've had some real heat, back in the day. I heard Claudio and Eddie Kingston both don't like each other. So you tell, where this is coming into play, with Claudio and Eddie Kingston going at it. Then Konosuke Takeshita versus Kenny Omega, which I saw. I thought it was a good match. Good back and forth between Takeshita and Omega. Very physical matchup it was. But Takeshita ended up winning the match by defeating Omega. So I thought it was a good match. And then Bullet Club Gold, you had the Guns, Jay White and Juice Robinson. They ended up taking on FTR and the Young Bucks in a 8-man tag team match. I thought it was a fun 8-man tag. You had Bullet Club Gold beat FTR and the Young Bucks. And then the main event, Moxley versus Orange Cassidy for the International Championship. Thought it was, good. Surprised that Moxley didn't bleed in this match, and Orange Cassidy was the one to bleed profusely. So, but Moxley ended up getting the win. He's now the new international champion. But that was All Out. Those were the results. But anyways, let's jump right into the Dynamite review. Dynamite opened up tonight with Orange Cassidy, former international champion. He made his way out to the ring, and he looked all beat up, and he ended up coming into the ring with a mic in hand. Still, him losing the international championship, Tony Khan still has Orange Cassidy go out there and start off Dynamite. So we had the crowd end up chanting "Freshly Squeezed," and then the crowd chanted "Thank you, Orange." So Orange Cassidy ended up saying, "Hey." So Cassidy then followed up by thanking the fans and saying they told him to stay home. But Cassidy ended up saying, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to stay home. He ended up saying, championship or no championship, he will be here every single week because he is freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. And he does not have a catchphrase. So Cassidy set the mic down. He headed up the ramp. And then we had Jon Moxley end up coming out, the new international champion. And Orange Cassidy was, still on the ramp as, Moxley ended up coming out. And pretty much that was basically that. So Orange Cassidy, show of respect for him coming to Dynamite tonight after getting all beat up by Moxley at All Out on Sunday, bleeding profusely. Ton of respect for Orange Cassidy to come out tonight. Like I said, even though he was all beat up from his match, and how, he was saying, I'm going to be here every single week, with a championship or no championship. But thought it was a little decent promo from Orange Cassidy. And then we had the first match of the night. The International Championship was on the line. Jon Moxley defended the title against AR Fox. This was a good match here. So we had Cassidy. We saw him heading toward the stage as AR Fox ended up making his way out. The match got underway. Fox ended up charging at Moxley to get an early advantage in the match, but Moxley ended up laying into Fox with some hands. He ended up sending Fox back to the corner, and he ended up going after Fox's face. Moxley ended up getting sent to the corner from Fox as Fox ended up delivering a forearm to Moxley, which was followed up by a springboard dropkick that sent Moxley out of the ring. Moxley ended up walking around at ringside, and we had AR Fox end up doing a big dive to Moxley. So Fox ended up bringing Moxley back to the ring. Moxley ended up firing right back at Fox. He ended up dropping Fox down hard to the canvas. And we saw Darby Allin and Nick Wayne. They were watching the match from backstage. Moxley ended up going after AR Fox's back. And we had Fox end up fighting out of a suplex on the apron. He ended up hitting Moxley with a DDT from the second rope. Fox ended up going for the cover, to which Moxley ended up kicking out. Moxley then got out of the ring, and we had Fox end up getting out of the ring, and Moxley ended up sending Fox into the barricade. So then Dynamite went to commercial. Then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Moxley started losing control of the match thanks to AR Fox delivering a kick to Mox. So Fox ended up fighting back with some kicks and a neck breaker to Moxley. Fox ended up sending Moxley into the corner. He rolled through with a cutter, and he ended up going for the cover, and Moxley ended up kicking out. Moxley ended up rolling out of the ring. Fox ended up meeting Moxley on the apron with a big moonsault off the ring post. He ended up catching Moxley's shoulder in the process. So we had AR Fox deliver a 450 splash, and we had Fox end up going for the cover, and Moxley ended up kicking out. So Moxley ended up catching Fox by surprise. He ended rolling into a Kimura, ending up laying in some elbows to Fox, and Moxley ended up laying out Fox with a King Kong lariat. So Moxley then ended up hitting the Death Rider, which he ended up going for the cover on Fox. So there you go. Jon Moxley ended up winning the match, retaining the International Championship. Post-match, Moxley and Claudio left through the crowd. Darby Allin ended up checking in on Fox. Darby ended up raising Fox's arm as a show of appreciation. And Nick Wayne was still backstage. Nick Wayne was confronted by Christian Cage and Luchasaurus, the TNT champion, to which, of course, Christian Cage still carrying around the TNT championship like he won it. So Christian ended up running down Nick Wayne's father, and he ended up offering to be a true mentor to Nick Wayne. So pretty much that was, basically that. But overall, very good match between Jon Moxley and AR Fox here. Very physical match between these two. And then we had the TBS Championship on the line. This was an open challenge. Kris Statlander defended the title against Emi Sakura. And this was a quick matchup here. We had Emi Sakura end up catching Kris Statlander with some roll-up attempts. And we had Kris Statlander end up kicking out. Statlander headed to the apron. Sakura ended up knocking Statlander off of the crossbody. So on the outside, Sakura ended up continuing to attack Kris Statlander by driving Statlander into the ring steps. And then Sakura ended up bringing Statlander back into the ring. Sakura ended up going for the cover, and Statlander ended up kicking out at 2. Statlander tried to fight back with some chops to Sakura, but Sakura delivered some chops of her own to Statlander, and they both were trading strikes at each other. Sakura ended up hitting an elbow strike and a lariat to Statlander. So Statlander backed up as both Statlander and Sakura end up running to each other with some lariats, and they both end up dropping down to the canvas. Statlander headed to the apron as Sakura ended up getting to her feet. Statlander ended up knocking Sakura down, and she then ended up hitting a springboard elbow drop to Sakura. Sakura then dodged the discus lariat from Statlander, and she ended up hitting a reverse DDT to Statlander. So Sakura had Statlander up. She ended up hitting a backbreaker, and she ended up going for the cover, to which Statlander ended up kicking out. Sakura then climbed the turnbuckle, but she was then intercepted with a facebuster by Statlander. Statlander ended up following up with a discus lariat and the Wednesday Night Fever to Sakura. So Statlander ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Kris Statlander ended up winning the match, retaining the TBS Championship. Overall, this was a quick match. Sakura, in my opinion, looked good here with Kris Statlander, and it was a solid win for Statlander to retain the title. And then we saw Roderick Strong. He was backstage with the Kingdom, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett. Strong ended up going on to say that wrestling gave him an opportunity, as nobody judged him. He ended up claiming that his parents didn't know how to do that due to his mother having drug issues and his father being an alcoholic. He ended up saying that the wrestling business isn't a business to him. It is his everything. He ended up saying Adam Cole already knew that. He ended up saying that he grew up alone, and he will win the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament alone. So pretty much that was basically what Roderick Strong had to say. And then we had Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, Les Sex Gods, versus Aussie Open. Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis. Don Callis was on commentary for the match. And this was a decent match here. Jericho and Mark Davis started off the match. They were circling the mat, and they ended up locking up. Mark Davis ended up taking Jericho into the corner, and we had Jericho end up delivering a thumb to the eye to Mark Davis, and he started delivering a couple of chops to Davis, which the chops did not phase Davis for long. So Davis ended up sending Jericho back to the corner. Jericho came back and caught Davis with a forearm and a right hand. And then Jericho tagged in Guevara. So we had Guevara and Jericho end up taking Davis down with a double shoulder tackle. And then they posed for the crowd, both Guevara and Jericho. So Mark Davis didn't take that well. He ended up driving Guevara's face into the top rope. Davis then tagged in Kyle Fletcher. Fletcher ended up dropping Guevara with a scoop slam. Guevara got back to his feet, and both Guevara and Fletcher were trading strikes. Guevara ended up delivering a drop kick to Fletcher. The crowd was behind Sammy here, and Jericho ended up tagging in. So Guevara and Jericho end up doing a double team delay vertical suplex to Fletcher, and the crowd really enjoyed that when they hit that double delay vertical suplex to Fletcher. So then Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Guevara ended up avoiding an attack of Aussie Open to get a tag to Jericho. So we had Jericho ended up sending Fletcher out, but he was sent to the apron by Mark Davis. Jericho was looking to go for an axe handle off the turnbuckle, but he was stopped by Aussie Open. But Davis ended up getting taken out with a QT by Guevara, and Fletcher ended up hitting a forearm on Jericho. Jericho ended up catching Fletcher with a code breaker, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Fletcher kicked out. Jericho then delivered a chop to Fletcher before sending Fletcher to the ropes and to the outside, where Mark Davis ended up trying to help. So we had Guevara end up doing a dive to bolt Aussie Open. Jericho was looking to go for a dive of his own, but we had both Davis and Fletcher end up sending Guevara in Jericho's path. So both Aussie Open end up picking up Jericho and Guevara. They end up dropping their backs together on the outside, and they end up sending Jericho back into the ring. So we had Davis end up going for the cover on Jericho, but Jericho ended up kicking out. Davis and Fletcher end up looking to go on the attack, but Davis ended up running into a Spanish fly by Guevara, which was great. Fletcher ended up getting caught into the walls of Jericho, and Fletcher ended up fighting out of that. Fletcher ended up hitting Jericho with a thrust kick. Then Fletcher delivered a brainbuster to Jericho. He ended up going for the cover, and Jericho ended up kicking out. So Fletcher got all frustrated. He ended up laying in some punches on Jericho. Jericho started to fight back, but Jericho accidentally knocked Guevara off the apron. So Fletcher rolled Jericho up, and Jericho ended up kicking out. Jericho then ended up going for the Judas effect on Fletcher. He ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Jericho and Guevara, these sex gods, ended up winning the match. So post-match, we had the arms being raised of Les Sex Gods, and Guevara threw his arm down after, what happened, with Jericho accidentally knocking him off the apron. And this all led to a shoving contest between Guevara and Jericho. So officials had to run to the ring to break things up between the two. Guevara then ended up rushing out of the ring. Guevara then left through the crowd, and pretty much that was basically that. But in a sense, this is the start of Guevara turning heel. So this is where it's going to go. Yeah. So Guevara is going to turn heel on Jericho. But overall, I thought this was a decent tag team match here. Aussie Open, both Davis and Fletcher, they're always great. And, Jericho and Guevara looked great here as well. And then we had Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks talked about how Bryan Danielson did not make him submit at All Out. He kept saying that he wants more opportunities, or one day he will quit. He kept saying that he doesn't want anyone to knock on his door to ask him back. So pretty much that was basically what Ricky Starks had to say. Starks, wants more opportunities for himself. But Ricky Starks, very good in the ring. I'm a fan of Starks. And then we went backstage, and we saw Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita with Renee Paquette. And there was an easel there, and there was a black drape covering the easel. Don Callis hyped Takeshita as the new big dog, and he had promised him to unveil Takeshita's next target next week on Dynamite. So there you go. Next week we're going to get Takeshita's next target. Who is going to face Takeshita next? And then we had MJF. MJF ended up heading to the ring. The world champion and one half of the world tag team champions. So he got into the ring, had a mic in hand, and the crowd was cheering for him. He ended up calling for his music to be cut. He ended up saying, Indianapolis, the devil has arrived in Hoosier country. So MJF ended up saying that when he was trying to make a name for himself on the independent circuit, he lived right in Indiana. So, who's your daddy? So, we had MJF end up saying, much to his delight, he ended up addressing All Out, where him and his brochacho, Adam Cole, defended the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship. He ended up saying he found out in the back from that Mark, Tony Khan, that he has to compete again on September 20th. But, of course, September 20th, that is at Grand Slam, right here in New York and Queens, which I will be at. I am going to Grand Slam, and it's going to be my second Grand Slam that I'm attending. Went last year and attending this year. But he kept saying, so gear up, because nobody is on the level of the devil. He ended up saying that there's one person in particular who needs to be taught a lesson. So Samoa Joe ended up making his way out. The Ring of Honor World Television Champion. Joe headed right down the ramp. He got a mic in his hand. And Joe ended up saying, pardon the interruption, champ, but he heard some piss and vinegar just now. So now he's out here. And he kept saying that Max is out here. So what seems to be the problem, kid? So MJF didn't take that well. And MJF was interrupted with a chant of, Joe's going to kill you. So MJF ended up saying that he can understand Joe being confused, perhaps mixing up his music with an ice cream truck, which I found really funny. I laughed at that. So Joe ended up saying to MJF, that's good. But the last time he had anything to do with ice cream, it was as a star on another company's network. Of course, talking about WWE. So Joe was like, so again, what's the problem, kid? To MJF. MJF still didn't take this well. He kept saying that he can be creative too. He kept saying, who wants to hear MJF get creative up in here? So MJF was like, hey everybody, it's Pillsbury Joe Boy, which was hilarious. And then he was like, no wait, that's Samoa Joe. Which, was funny though. So MJF followed up with something a little hard to repeat. He ended up saying something Joe retorts to before saying Max's time with all these mouth breathers made him stupid. So Joe ended up saying, so one more time, what's the problem, kid? He kept calling MJF kid. So MJF ended up yelling that if Joe calls him kid one more time, he's going to knock his teeth down his throat. So MJF quickly stopped himself. He realized that the reaction Joe wants so he can cut the line. But MJF ended up saying there's a whole tournament he can wrestle in. So the crowd started chanting, "Fuck you, Joe." And Joe ended up telling the crowd that they're starting to sound like their mothers, so calm down. So MJF ended up offering up a story for the crowd to get things back on track. MJF ended up bringing up a tryout that he had with WWE that he knocked out of the park. So he ended up saying that he then got pulled aside by a certain individual named William Regal. And he ended up saying that William Regal said to him that he was too young before ultimately blowing MJF off. So he ended up saying, we all know how that story ended. He ended up knocking Regal out and sent him packing to NXT, where he belongs. He ended up saying that if Joe plays his cards right, he's next. So MJF then talked about the time he was set as a security guard, where he'd met the great Samoa Joe. But Joe decided to take a 19-year-old kid, shove him into a brick wall, and laughed. MJF was like, let's be honest, Joe. We know why he did that. Because we know how scumbags think. And he knows because he's the fans' scumbag. He ended up saying that Joe did it because he was a kid. And because he could get away with it. So MJF ended up saying that he's not a kid anymore. He is full grown, a generational talent, and the AEW World Champion. He ended up saying that he's MJF and he is better than you. And you know it, to which the crowd ended up cheering at that. So Joe ended up saying to MJF, that's a point well made. So then he started running MJF down. MJF ended up responding with a slap to Joe's face. Joe ended up seeing that for what it is, however, promising to run through that tournament and taking the AEW World Championship from MJF. He was like, until then, have a nice day. So MJF started to leave through the ropes, but he then got blindsided by Samoa Joe. Joe ended up laying into MJF with some kicks. He ended up standing up with the AEW World Championship, only for MJF to low blow Joe. So MJF ended up sending Joe into the corner with some stomps. He pulled his shirt off to go after Joe some more, but Joe ended up catching MJF. He ended up doing more damage to MJF. And then Adam Cole ended up running down to make the save for MJF. We had Dr. Sampson end up running down to check on MJF. And we heard Joe yelling, "What's wrong, kid? You don't look so good," from the stage. So we had Dr. Sampson end up checking on MJF. He ended up asking if it's worse than Sunday. So MJF was screaming out saying that his left arm is nubbed. So pretty much, that was basically that. The staff ended up helping MJF out of the ring. Joe then grabbed the mic to run MJF down again. He ended up saying that he can't promise he won't tear through him the next time he stands in front of him before Joe ended up finally head to the back. So then we saw the staff continue to walk up the ramp with MJF as Adam Cole ended up following. And then we hear Roderick Strong end up yelling at Adam. So he was yelling at Cole about caring about MJF's neck more than his own. So Roderick Strong and the Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, they head down the ramp to the ring. And we had Roderick Strong's neck brace being taken off. So Roderick Strong's neck is good here. I think Matt Taven ended up taking off the neck brace of Roderick Strong. So, but this was one hell of a segment between MJF and Samoa Joe. Really enjoyed this segment here. Both Joe and MJF showed their promo chops here, and there was a lot going on. With Adam Cole checking in on MJF and the stuff with Roderick Strong. But intriguing stuff it was. Very intriguing. Then we had Roderick Strong versus Trent Beretta. This was to kick off the Grand Slam World Championship Eliminator Tournament quarterfinals. And this was a good match here. Roderick Strong rushed Trent Beretta to the corner. Strong ended up taking Beretta down. He ended up going for a side headlock on Beretta, but Beretta ended up taking Strong back down to the canvas. Strong ended up going on the attack on Beretta, and we had Strong end up sending Beretta back to the corner. He was looking to go for a stronghold, but Beretta ended up fighting out of it. Strong ended up getting a front facelock on Beretta. Beretta ended up fighting to his feet, but he was then taken down by a shoulder tackle delivered by Roderick Strong. So Beretta ended up hitting a standing knee strike to Strong. So Strong ended up fighting back. He ended up hitting a big backbreaker on Beretta. So we had Beretta end up delivering a back suplex to Strong. Beretta then delivered an elbow strike and a DDT off the ropes, which sent Strong to the outside. So we had the ref end up checking in as Trent ended up trying to get involved, but he was sent back and then into the ring post by Roderick Strong. So Roderick Strong ended up hitting a side suplex onto the apron to Beretta, and then Dynamite went to commercial. Then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we saw Trent fighting out of another backbreaker by Strong. He was looking for and hitting a German suplex on Strong, and he ended up going for the ropes to break things up. Strong ended up getting caught with a twist and Death Valley driver as Trent ended up going for the cover, and Strong ended up kicking out. Beretta was looking to go for a pile driver, but he was taken down with a backbreaker and a sick kick by Strong. So Strong ended up going for the cover, and Beretta ended up kicking out. So Strong ended up setting Beretta up on the turnbuckle. He was looking to go for a superplex, but Beretta ended up intercepting, and he ended up taking a slap on the back before Strong ended up having him on his shoulders. Beretta ended up fighting out. He ended up hitting a hurricanrana to Strong, and Strong ended up rolling through for a stronghold, only for Beretta to get him on his shoulders, and he ended up going for the cover, and Beretta ended up kicking out. So at the end of the match, we had Strong end up hitting a jumping knee strike and the end of Heartache on Beretta. So he ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Roderick Strong ended up winning the match, and he is advancing in the Grand Slam World Championship qualifier tournament. But overall, this was a good match here. So the Kingdom were quick to help Roderick Strong put his neck brace back on, and they end up leaving the ring, and they head up the ramp. So there was a graphic reminding us that Roderick Strong will face the winner of the main event, which was Darby Allin versus Nick Wayne, whoever, this Saturday on Collision. But that was that. Roderick Strong advancing in the Grand Slam World Championship Tournament. And then we saw Renee Paquette backstage. Renee was interviewing Toni Storm about what happened at All Out. So we had Toni Storm end up saying that we might get a sneak peek of what she wants to present next week. But until then, watch for the shoe. So Toni Storm ended up throwing a shoe at Renee. Renee ended up not watching for the shoe, which got flying her way. So pretty much that was that. And of course, the Women's World Championship is being defended at Grand Slam. And then we saw Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was in the ring with Hangman Page to address the over-budget charity battle royal that, of course, Page won at All Out during the All Out 0 hour. So Page ended up saying that he got the call about that match on Saturday, and he booked a flight and won it. He ended up saying that he's giving the money to the Chicago Education Fund. Page ended up saying that it's near and dear to him due to him being a teacher. And he ended up shouting out the profession, saying that they're underfunded and underappreciated. So Page ended up saying that he wants to look forward to the rest of the year and what he wants to do. So then he got interrupted by Swerve Strickland's theme. Out came Prince Nana, and then out came Swerve. Swerve ended up saying to Page that being in a coffin gives you perspective and makes you think. And the first person he thought about was Page. So he ended up asking Page if he's doing charity now and has become a mascot for AEW. He ended up pointing out that he was doing charity on the pre-show, and Page doesn't have any shame for himself, so he will have shame for him. Swerve ended up saying that Page was the cornerstone of AEW originally and was handpicked. He ended up saying that he went all the way to being an AEW World Champion and setting records at Allin off his back. Swerve then ended up claiming that Page doesn't want it anymore, pointing out he hasn't had any new wrestling gear or new merchandise in almost a year. Swerve ended up also thinking that Page has been eating good, and it is showing, and that he doesn't have single matches or promos anymore. So Swerve ended up thinking that Page has gotten a little too comfortable. He ended up saying that if he had Page's opportunities, he believes he would be the first black AEW World Champion by now. So Swerve ended up giving Page two options. Either he fades away and he will take the spot, or option B, he cowboys up to show everyone what cowboy shit is all about. So Swerve ended up saying that if Page chooses to do this with him, he will walk Page like a dog. And he ended up saying either way, he's coming for a spot that Page acts like he doesn't want. So Page ended up saying to Swerve that if he goes to the back and asks for a match, he'll get one. But he's done with this. So Swerve ended up saying that it's a shame that his wife and child have to see him like this. So Page ended up going back to Swerve, and he then ended up getting jumped by Brian Cage from behind. So Brian Cage ended up jumping Page from behind. So pretty much Brian Cage laid Swerve out, head up the ramp, and that was that. But overall, I thought this was a decent segment here from Hangman Page and also Swerve Strickland. Main event, Darby Allin versus Nick Wayne. Grand Slam World Championship Eliminator Tournament quarterfinals match. And I thought the match was just okay, in my opinion. It wasn't great or perfect by any means, but it was just okay. The match got underway with Darby Allin and Nick Wayne showing respect to each other, and then they both locked up, which led to an exchange of holds and near falls from the both of them. Nick Wayne ended up getting a waistlock on Darby Allin, but he was sent to the outside by Darby. So Nick Wayne ended up evading a dive from Darby Allin, which sent Darby crashing against the barricade, which was crazy. He had that shocked look on Nick Wayne there. So then Dynamite went to commercial. And then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Nick Wayne was in control of the match. He ended up pinning a big superplex to Darby Allin, and he followed up with a Fisherman Buster. So Nick Wayne ended up going for the cover. Darby ended up kicking out. Darby ended up struggling to get back up as Nick Wayne ended up going for a frog splash off the top, but Darby ended up getting Nick Wayne by lifting his knees up. Darby then crawled to the corner as Nick Wayne stood up. He was only to be sent flying to the corner with a drop kick, and Darby Allin ended up going for the cover, and Nick Wayne ended up kicking out. Darby then took Nick Wayne back to the corner for a chop, and Nick Wayne walked it off, and Darby ended up hitting Nick Wayne again with a chop. So both men were down, and they ended up bumping knuckles on the way back to their feet, and then they would trade strikes at each other. Darby then tried to rile Nick Wayne up by calling him out on the mic, which led to Nick Wayne hitting Darby even harder. Because Darby Allin on the mic, he ended up telling Nick Wayne that he hits like an 18-year-old, and that Nick Wayne should hit him like he wants to win this. Which then Darby Allin ended up putting his hands behind his back. Nick Wayne started loading up a punch. He ended up catching Darby Allin with a super kick. Allin ended up managing to kick out of a pinfall attempt, and that brought out Christian Cage and Luchasaurus. Both Christian and Luchasaurus made their way out, and they headed to the commentary table. So then Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had Nick Wayne and Darby Allin battled out on the ring apron. So Nick Wayne delivered a Hurricanrana on Darby Allin, which sent him to the floor. And Roderick Strong and the Kingdom were watching the match backstage. So Nick Wayne ended up climbing to the top to deliver a frog splash onto Darby on the floor. Nick Wayne ended up sending Darby back into the ring. He ended up hitting Wayne's World. Party time, excellent. So he hit that, and he ended up going for a cover, and Darby Allin ended up kicking out. Nick Wayne headed back to the corner as Darby Allin ended up getting back up. So Nick Wayne ended up sending up Darby on the turnbuckle, and Darby ended up sending Nick Wayne crashing to the canvas. Darby then set up for the coffin drop, and we had Darby end up going for the cover, and Nick Wayne ended up kicking out. So we had Nick Wayne end up trying to go for another Wayne's World, but Darby Allin ended up blocking that, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Nick Wayne ended up kicking out. So we had Darby Allin end up getting Nick Wayne locked in on the code red. He started stomping at Nick Wayne. So Nick Wayne couldn't respond, and the ref called for the bell. So there you go. Darby Allin ended up winning the match. He is advancing into the World Title Eliminator Tournament. So Christian was on commentary. He raised the question of what happens if Darby can't make it to the next match. So he then headed to the stage. He ended up mockingly applauding Darby. And pretty much that was basically how Dynamite went off the air. But overall, this was an okay match here. So Darby Allin is going to meet Roderick Strong this Saturday on Collision. But here's the bracket of the Grand Slam World Title Tournament here. So here's the bracket here. Okay, so here's the bracket here for the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament. Of course, we had Darby Allin win his match against Nick Wayne. Roderick Strong won his match against Trent Beretta. And we're going to have, of course, Darby Allin take on Roderick Strong Saturday on Collision, semifinal match. And then Friday on Rampage, we're going to see Penta El Zero Miedo take on Jay Lethal, to which Penta is going to win it. That's my prediction. And then Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy. Obviously, in my opinion, I think Samoa Joe is going to win it. So whoever wins, whether it's Penta, Jay Lethal, Samoa Joe, or Jeff Hardy, they will win. And then the semifinal match will also take place on Collision. And then next week will be the final on Dynamite. And the winner will get to face MJF at Grand Slam for the World Championship. So there's your bracket for the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament. So that was the bracket for the Grand Slam World Title Tournament. But overall, Dynamite tonight, okay show it was. Wasn't great or perfect, but just an okay show. But anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later.